Hi, good evening. Happy Sunday. I hope everybody's doing well. This is Kenya Rockman, the author and founder of the Child Support Hustle and the Reform Child Support Now movement. Let me see if anybody wants to join us. As the title says, I want to talk about the ACLU. I saw a link that they have jumped in the fight to cancel some student loan debt. And I thought that was interesting because welcome everybody that's joining. Thank you for joining. I thought that was interesting because from the very first moment I stepped in the arena of child support reform and fighting for parents, I always recommended, and I stopped eventually recommending parents go to the ACLU. They are supposed to fight for civil liberties. So after a while, I found out that they weren't really, not surprisingly, a lot of other politicians, organizations weren't really into fighting for child support for parents that were going through the child support system, even though parents could prove the unconstitutionality of it, could prove violation of human rights, civil rights, violations to the Constitution. I had one parent actually send me an email and said that whoever he talked to couldn't help him because he was part of an organization, meaning my organization, which I wasn't even really formed. Like I was just advocating on my own. I didn't have any like a big support network or anything like that. I was just, hey, try them because this is what they're supposed to do. So that is why I thought it was interesting that they would get on board with canceling student loan debt, knowing how many organizations were behind them and the government itself behind that movement. So I wanted to do a little research and kind of go like compare and contrast why both of these, I think, and it's no diss to fighting for student loan debt cancellation, especially now when so many people are struggling, but I'm just saying parents are struggling too. So I don't understand why one is more important than the other when one was clearly a contract, and which is student loan debt, and child support debt is not a contract that most parents sign into. So I want to discuss the reality that if people are serious about the fight for canceling student loan debt, they should be joining the fight for canceling government-owed child support debt. And that's going to be specific to this live. It's going to be specific to government-owed child support debt, because we can get into non-government owed, but that's a whole different conversation. The reasons that organizations and government officials are calling for this relief are extremely similar to the reasons that myself and others are calling for relief to child support arrears, especially when the money is owed exclusively to the government. Thank you for the likes. If you're here, please click and like. If you're watching later, like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. So here are some specifics to the press release, this press release that was released by Elizabeth Warren's office. She's been spearheading the cancellation of student loan debts. And she, along with other politicians, held a press conference. This was February 4th, 2021, discussing a resolution to cancel student debt, calling it, quote, the single most effective action available to provide massive consumer-driven stimulus, end quote. So the reasons that provided in the press release, I forgot my water, are that over 43 million people in the U.S. owe 1.6 trillion in federal student loan debt. That's a lot. Studies show that canceling student debt would substantially increase Black and Latino household wealth. Canceling the debt will help narrow the racial wealth gap. It will provide relief to millions of Americans during the pandemic and recession. And canceling the debt will provide massive consumer-driven stimulus to our economy. Thanks for joining, guys. Appreciate you. Now, let's look at the issues the government owed with government-owed child support debt and the reasons that the debt needs to be canceled. As of 2020, parents allegedly owed over $21 billion, still significant, in what is considered temporary assistance for needy families, or TANF arrears. According to the Office of Child Support Enforcement, the government is owed the arrears because when the family applies for cash assistance, they are required to sign over their right to the state, their right for child support. Any child support owed while the family receives assistance, and many times after they leave the roles of welfare, if there's a debt, it's owed to the government, and the government is going to recover that money. According to the UCLA Criminal Justice Law Review, and this was authored by former Commissioner of the Office of Child Support Enforcement, I'm just going to say OCSE, Vicki Tureski, and Maureen R. Waller. Under the Welfare Cost Recovery Policy, states confiscate child support payments from the poorest families to reimburse public assistance and fund government operations. The poorest families, non-resident or non-custodial parents with the lowest incomes and most barriers to employment, are often expected to pay an impossibly large share of their income toward child support. Unpaid child support contribute to an overwhelming debt burden held by incarcerated and formerly incarcerated people in particular, who are generally poor and disproportionately people of color. For the most part, this debt will never be recovered. These issues for debt collection are collection on both student loans and government-owed child support are similar. And this is like a comparison and contrast, but more so a comparison just to reiterate the importance of getting all of these people, and especially the people that support student loan debt forgiveness or cancellation, on board for government-owed child support debt forgiveness or cancellation, because the comparisons are so similar in what parents are Americans or citizens, however you want to categorize, but everybody's an American that are being dragged through the mud under these systems. Okay, so now let's look at some of the reasons that debt relief is needed, especially now that we are living through a global pandemic. Senator Warren stated that, quote, "The COVID-19 crisis is worsening with the massive inequities in our economy and society, but even before the pandemic, the student loan debt crisis was already crushing millions of Americans," end quote. Thanks for liking, guys. So, according to CNBC.com, this is prior to the pandemic, roughly 1 in 3 households had trouble making ends meet right before the pandemic. By September, nearly 5 million more people were living in poverty than before the pandemic. According to financial experts, minorities, low earners, women, and those without college degrees suffered the most before the pandemic. Even before the pandemic, a large share of Americans lived paycheck to paycheck. Some 40% of Americans said they couldn't cover a $400 unexpected bill without selling something or going into debt, based on a 2018 report from the Federal Reserve. Families were on one home repair, medical bill, or paycheck from potential disaster. In June of 2019, according to the consumerfinance.gov, 40% of consumers had difficulty paying a bill or expense in the previous year. Half could cover their expenses for 2 months or fewer if they lost their main source of income. So that's with no child support debt, arrears, or anything considered. So that's just, just regular everyday today living. So you add the burden of paying back government-owed child support arrears on top of parents or Americans, citizens already struggling. Government-owed child support debt, I don't know why I can't talk today, guys. I'm so sorry. Affected paying parents negatively prior to the pandemic in numerous ways, on top of those hardships experienced by Americans not paying child support debt. Let's consider a report published by the Institute for Research and Poverty, or IRP, in December 2020, entitled "Negotiating Race and racial inequality in family court. And I'm gonna put the links, all the sources that I'm saying under sources in the description, they're there. Let's see. I think that I don't know. I kind of stopped following them, if you will, when they turned their back on parents that needed protections, going through child support cases and having their rights violated. And I didn't see them help one person. And I've seen hundreds upon hundreds of parents say that they reached out and they received no help. They were turned away. And there were clear civil rights violations, clear constitutional violations, just equality. There was clear violations, and they did nothing. And to this day, I've never seen them help a parent with anything to do with child support. Not even with with nothing. Now, I could be wrong, and if I am wrong, I'll stand by that and correct myself. But me advocating the time I have, I've never seen them offer a hand and help anybody with any wrongdoings by the court system, the child support agencies, anywhere. So that's why I'm going over this. And this is kind of yes, a lot of information, but it's so important because they have so many politicians, so many organizations, so many big names, big money behind canceling the student loan debt. And nobody really wants to get involved, lend their name, lend their position behind canceling government owed child support debt. And there's just as much reason to do that as there is to cancel student loan debt. And that's why I wanted to go over this. Like, if anybody's supporting this, like, yeah, cancel student loan debt, then you should support canceling government owed child support debt as well. And you would be hard pressed to find a reason not to, in my opinion. The majority of child support, okay, so this is based on this report from the Institute of the Research in Poverty. The majority of child support debt is owed by low-income fathers, many of whom are Black. Most low-income fathers of color navigate the civil court system without legal representation. 80% of the civil legal needs of low-income communities go unmet, and the vast majority are unrepresented litigants are low income. This means that there's a justice gap, and that low-income litigants do not have the access to the same level of representation as Americans with more financial means. The population of low-income Americans most affected by the civil justice gap are disproportionately composed of people of color. One study found that 75% of non-custodial parents, non-custodial fathers with low incomes below 130% of the federal poverty level did not work full-time. Other studies found that 60% of poor fathers who do not pay child support belong to racial and ethnic minorities. 29% were incarcerated. 43% have not completed high school. 39% have health problems, and 32% have been unemployed for at least 3 years. These issues have caused massive inequities and have contributed to the massive amount of child support debt that includes non-TANF cases. So this goes across the board. Those issues don't just stop with low-income parents, but that's a big majority of it. That can be concluded simply by comparing the amount of current child support debt owed to the amount of arrears owed nationally. At the end of fiscal year 2020, parents were on the hook, allegedly, for $33 billion in current child support. The amount of arrears, get this, totaled $115 billion. Now that's interest, late fees, penalty fees, just whatever they want to tack on. Whatever they want to tack on, they're tacking on, so that grows that number so high. And we know that most debt is owed by people that can't afford it. So that goes into the bail reform that the ACLU is a supporter of. They've joined that fight to bail reform because people can't afford it. So there's another fight that they've joined that is similar to parents fighting in the child support system, but again, no help. And that amount, the 115 billion, that was after the government seized nearly $4 billion from parents from the stimulus money and income tax offsets. That is crushing debt for parents before the pandemic, and is even more crushing now, especially when considering the other factors contributing to massive debt. Now, one of these issues that the people fighting to cancel student loan debt say are, people struggling prior to the pandemic were offered relief in relation to the financial crisis. And we saw that all across the board. People were offered a chance, to hold off on paying bills, just all kind of relief. Some bills that were listed on usnews.com said that people may have skipped, paused, or deprioritized during the pandemic included, but were not limited to, mortgage payments, rent payments, student loan payments, credit card bills, bank fees, car payments, utility bills, all that. Send me an email, gwalker, cshustle1@gmail.com, and I'll try to get you something. So sadly, child support payments were not suspended. There was no relief offered during the pandemic, even when parents lost their job. Unfortunately, the bills that held the most unforgiving leniency and punishments, child support, offered no significant and financially beneficial relief during the pandemic. The only option that parents were offered was to file a modification. And we know parents and people that have filed a modification, even before the pandemic, filing for a modification is timely. It does not guarantee approval, even when a parent proves that there has been a significant change in their circumstance. This meant and continues to mean that these parents will be responsible for the current payment and all debt that has accrued during the pandemic. So telling somebody to file for a modification does not mean that they will not be responsible for those payments. If these are TANF cases, this only increases the amount of debt owed to the government. This means that millions of paying parents are facing a child support debt crisis. So parents are in crisis too. And I made a video, you can see it on the YouTube channel, about canceling child support debt during child support payments during the pandemic. And I had so much backlash because people were saying, well, children still have to eat. What about bills? What about this? What about that? But the government was often offering, again, relief where you could get emergency cash benefits. You can get emergency SNAP benefits. You can get, there were programs and benefits, and there was assistance available. So if those child support payments were canceled during the pandemic, like a lot of other bills and payments were canceled, the children would have been just fine because they offered other relief. But nobody wanted to hear that. But it's time that people stopped ignoring these are facts. Just because you're emotionally tied to the child support program, or you're invested into arguing that this system works, or that they need to do this, or fathers need to do that, and deadbeat this and that, well, that's too bad. That's too bad. The facts are the facts. And I'm laying down facts. If you support canceling student loan debt for the reasons that the politicians, the ACLU organizations, all these people support it, then you should, if you're not a hypocrite, be supporting erasing government owed child support debt. Next, Warren stated that, quote, by canceling up to $50,000 in federal student loan debt for borrowers, President Biden can take the single most effective action available to provide a massive stimulus to our economy, help narrow the racial wealth gap. See, they keep throwing that racial wealth gap in there. So pay attention to that, and pay attention when they incorporate or try to incorporate these programs or these debt forgiveness programs, because there's racial disparities and gaps in that child support program with the debt too. So don't let one go without the other. It can't be good for one program and not good for another. And finally, they want to lift this impossible burden off of tens of millions of families. That's an end quote. I added something in there, so excuse me. Likewise, the Biden administration canceling child support debt, specifically TANF arrears. Somebody's at my door. TANF arrears. Children, parents, and families could reap those same benefits. I don't know how to pause this. I might have to edit. I'm not going to end my stream, but let me see who's at my door, okay? I'm just going to have to go back and edit this. Hold on one second, guys, please. Nobody. Look at my camera. I should have looked over there first. Nobody was there. Isn't that something? I'm sorry about that. I'm sorry, guys. Nobody was there, and they rang the doorbell twice. So, where was I? Hi, Toothless Bulldog. I guess it's a good time to take a break. I might edit it. I might not. I'm still new to this. So if you're watching this later and it's not edited, I didn't do it right, or I just said forget it and just roll with it. Just fast forward it or whatever. But I don't know. Somebody just rang my doorbell. Okay. Good. Take notes and learn. Thank you. You can also visit the childsupporthustle.com. I have a lot of information there as well. So let me just start where I left off. Likewise, by the Biden administration canceling child support debt, specifically TANF arrears, children, parents, and families could reap the same benefits. According to the research report by the Urban Institute updated on August 28, 2019, it was entitled Relief from Government Owed Support Debt and Its Effect on Parents and Children. There's several points here, all critical. Debt relief resulted in more consistent child support payments. Downward spirals were turned around, empowering parents to support their children. There was reduced stress among parents. There was improved credit scores, housing status, and feelings of control over finances. There were reduced barriers to employment, improved relationship with children and co-parents. The report even listed an improved relationship with the child support system, which should be something that would make custodial parents and legislators happy. So that would be a win-win if canceling government-owed child support debt. So they want the parents to come in and join this system, even though I said it many times, it's not mandatory unless you're receiving government-owed government benefits, but they want the parents to come in and cooperate with them in this program. So if reducing or eliminating that debt will bring more parents in and cooperate with the program, you would think that would be something they would be interested in. By comparing canceling student loan debt with canceling government owed debt, it is clear why canceling both will be beneficial to the people who have experienced the greatest negative financial impact before and during the pandemic. So I want to share a few quotes from both supporters of canceling student loan debt and canceling child support debt. So Senator Dick Durbin from Illinois, he says canceling up to $50,000 in debt would improve immediate financial relief during this unprecedented economic crisis and lift the weight off the backs of countless American households. Senator Ed Markey from Massachusetts said, imagine what our country will achieve when this unnecessary burden is lifted from the backs of millions of Americans. I hope President Biden will use his executive authority to fix this injustice. Randy Weingartner, Weingarten, president of the American Federation of Teachers, said, nearly a year into this public health crisis and ensuing recession, families continue to struggle to afford basic necessities. But the new administration and Congress has made clear they are working to tackle these challenges and put decency, competency, and the needs of working people first. So that's good stuff, right? So now this is from our petition, and parents saying or putting a statement in saying why they chose to sign the petition. And please add your signature. I added the link in the description. Add your signature, and if you want, you can add a comment to say why you're signing to erase the government owed child support debt. And I tweet this petition to the Biden administration often. Hey, Wagwan. Okay, so first I have Roxana H. She says, this is important for all to receive help. Many were out of work due to the pandemic. There is no relief to parents still getting charged child support, then to be charged twice for being late, which doubles the payment in interest. No stimulus for help, no nothing, just people struggling and forgotten because of the stigma of the family courts. They are people too, hungry and struggling. We need help for all families. David S. says, my youngest child will be 27 this month. I'm paying arrears, now interest payments that never are applied to the balance. Gilbert G. said, support debt has financially and psychologically destroyed me. Putting a price on life is the most demonic form of oppression. This stuff is serious. So people that support erasing student loan debt should really take a look and see how damaging these arrears are to parents. The same issues apply. The people that are struggling with student loan debt are struggling with arrears. And we can even take it further to arrears even that are not owed to the government. So Kylena T said, for my husband who has been financially abused via family court, over $20,000 of debt after the first day of child support court, taking almost 80% of his pay for current and arrears. 80%. A common misconception is that this large amount of debt is accrued because parents did not pay their child support over a long period of time. That is false. That's false. Most of the time, this debt comes, these tens of thousands of dollars of debt occur because on day one, when they step in the courtroom, they are being charged from the date of birth. So they're going back, if the child is 10, they're going back 10 years. So they're already $10,000, $20,000 in debt from day one. That happens even if they didn't even know the child existed. So they're behind already. And if that debt is owed to the state, which happens all the time, if that parent, the custodial parent, is receiving welfare benefits, that's $20,000 that parent owes to the government automatically. And that's money that has been proven uncollectible. It has been proven that it will not benefit the child if it is collected. It has been proven damaging to that non-custodial parent and to the family. Yet it starts after that. I mean, after, it's not the day of the judgment. And a lot of these courts will ignore, and they're not supposed to, ignore that a parent has been providing child support outside of a formal agreement before it even gets to court. They'll ignore it. They'll call it an in-kind payment. They won't consider diapers and babysitting and things like that. Not babies, you don't babysit your own child, but child care, making sure that you don't have to pay for somebody outside of the home. Those things should be considered. So parents start off in debt on day one. So they never get out of debt. So if that money is owed to the government, that's government profit. That's not child support, that's state support. So there's no way that somebody can convince me that leaving people in debt to the government for child support for a loan or a debt that they did not contract for is beneficial to anybody besides the government. So again, I say, if you are fighting for or agree with erasing student loan debt, you should be on board and fighting for erasing government-owed child support debt. Even if you are ride or die for the child support system, investigate what really goes on with these child support arrears. As you can see, the arguments for the cancellation of student loan debt can easily be made for the cancellation of government-owed or all child support debt. If there was ever a time that the debt should be erased, it should be right now when the country is struggling to recover from the pandemic. If you are in support of erasing even a penny of student loan debt, you should be in complete support of erasing child support debt, especially when it's owed to the government. I know that I had a lot of interruptions in this live, and I don't want to do it over because I think overall it was pretty good, and I'm just not that person to be like, oh, I need to do this and do that, because I mean, as long as the information gets out, I mean, people are going to critique the stuff, but you know, that's good. Let me see. It's tough to not be able to buy a home. Exactly. Buying a home, that's another thing that they listed as a reason to erase student loan debt. It makes it difficult for people to buy homes and, you know, buy cars. This is on their credit. Well, child support debt is on parents' credit too. They can't buy homes. They can't do so much. The child support system cripples parents to the point that it causes homelessness. Parents sleep in their cars. And it's not even because they didn't even take care of their children, or some of these people, like I read from David, his child is 27. Now, if those arrears are owed to the government, why is he still paying? They're taking up to 80%. They're not even supposed to take that, but they do, because there's no accountability for these systems. So I mentioned some names up here of our senators. Dick Durbin, he's out of Illinois. Ed Markey out of Massachusetts. Senator Warren, I think she's Massachusetts, I'm not sure. But I have all the links in the description. You see those politicians, contact them, ask them why on earth or how can you possibly support canceling student loan debt. That's a debt that these people signed for. They agreed to pay this money back. I'm one of them. I have student loans. We agreed. We signed on the dotted line. Most parents did not sign a contract to repay the government for welfare benefits. One, they're not loans, they're grants. And we could stop right there. We could stop right there. So why are people's lives being ruined over a grant that they did not contract to sign back, to pay off? Thank you so much, Neil. I appreciate you. A class action lawsuit. Hey, I don't know. I've seen people talk about it. I've never seen it actually happen or happen successfully. But hey, you have my signature and support. So again, I hope I provided some good information here. And it'll help some of you guys. I want to share some of the comments that people shared on the petition about why they're signing. Please go sign. The link is in the description. If you're watching this later, please like I said, I'm sorry for the interruptions. I don't know who's ringing my doorbell. I had this strange day. Somebody knocked on my door earlier today too. When I went to go look, nobody was there. So it probably threw me all the way off. So thank you all so much for joining my live. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for anybody that purchased my book. Thank you for purchasing t-shirt. Thank you so much. If you're interested, you can get both at my website, thechild-support-hustle.com. There's lots of articles that I've written there. Starting to write again, which is good. I wasn't writing when I just wrote an article, I hadn't written since April. So that feels good. Thank you. I love you back. And so that's good. So I'm gonna still be doing some research, and let's ask the ACLU. Hey, if you support that, why aren't you supporting erasing child support debt? Why aren't you supporting ending debtor prisons? Why aren't you supporting all of these issues that come along with this child support system that we know because we've seen and read and saw and hear about what's going on, but everybody seems to want to turn a deaf ear and a blind eye when it comes to the injustices that go along with this child support system, and enough is enough. I mean, they do a little bit here and a little bit there, a little over here and a little over there, and that's just not enough. That's just not enough. Why? I was looking at my pictures of me in Jamaica yesterday. Such a beautiful place. So if that's it, yeah. Oh, before I go, we were talking about possibly having another protest. We did a nationwide protest last year, and people, in their respective states went out, held up their signs, protested. And I was wondering, or we were wondering, if that's something you all would be interested in this year. So if you would, we could pick a date. August is what is that? Child Support Awareness Month, National Child Support Awareness Month. So if that's something you guys will be interested in, or if we don't want to do it in August or organize something later, let me know if that's something y'all want to do, because y'all know me, I'm 10 toes down. I'm boots on the ground. I'm ready. I'm retired. I'm semi-retired. I know I'm still pushing, but this is my passion, so it's hard to just stop. It's hard to just stop. But I want to be more active when we out in the field. Okay, we got LA in, we have North Carolina. Of course, we got Detroit, Texas, we got Houston. Shout out Marco, Alabama with Marcus. So, okay, I'm going to get up out of here. I'm so upset that it was all these distractions, but I thank y'all for sticking with me and rocking with me. Some of y'all was here from the beginning to the end, so thank y'all so much. And like I said, if y'all watch this later and y'all see me answer the door and all that kind of stuff, it's because I said forget it. I'm not editing anything. Y'all can fast forward that part. But I'll go back and look if it's not really too bad, or I'll be like, oh, that ain't. Anyway, I don't know. I'm kind of easy going type person. Thank you so much. Like, subscribe, share, sign the petition, put all my places that you can go and support on Twitter, Instagram, the Facebook page, all that good stuff. Y'all have a great rest of y'all Sunday and stay tuned. Make sure y'all know these are on so y'all know when I go live with some more information. And I'm going to be interviewing attorney Cassandra Daniels probably sometime next week. So join us for that. It's going to be a good one. That'd be my first like interview. So I was trying to do my little setup to have everything hooked up just right. So we'll see how that goes. God bless you too, Neil. Y'all keep fighting. Remember, they can ignore hundreds, they can ignore thousands, but they cannot ignore millions. Let's go.